I'll take care of that. Somebody can
I
have
don't need to share the information.
the bid package is in there. I was gonna fill it out for him.
Order the school board meeting of September 20th, 2023. It is 6 o'clock. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Public comments.
Nancy Shute, Pleasant Hill Road. I'm here once again to thank the school board for doing what the voters have asked. Although when I read comments on social media, I would think that that's not happening. You currently presented 3 options. Unless I misread or misheard, each option provides choice. That is what the voters asked for, and that is what you are doing. Negotiations take time, even when dealing with one party. In this case, that would be a school. Trying to negotiate with more than one would certainly increase the time frame, unless you could put all parties together in one room at the same time. People have wanted Dover as an option. It's difficult to negotiate with a school that doesn't return your call. At the last meeting, I believe I heard that the board and superintendent had both contacted Dover and at that time had not heard back from them. Maybe that has changed since then, but again, it's hard to negotiate with someone if they don't reach out to you. I urge people to come to meetings, watch the videos, read the minutes, and to reach out to the school board meetings with any questions that they have. Unfortunately, people tend not to do that, but only get their information from social media. And again, the people who probably need to hear this are probably not even going to hear it. So again, thank you. I know you're doing what the voters asked for.
Thank you so much. Agenda review. I am going to add an informational item, probably as number 6. And that's just going to be about the budget schedule. Yes, Ellen.
I was wondering if we could add something about the capital investment plan. I mean, we're going to be talking about the goals, so it might come up then, but I did find it. I did go through it.
Yeah.
I got questions.
We can certainly talk about it under the
Goals would be
goals.
for us.
Yeah. Any other items?
Nope.
Okie dokie. Okay, so immediate business. The only immediate business is board goals. So last meeting, we were sort of brainstorming various goals that we were thinking about. I did draft some of the things that we were thinking about into like a very rough draft.
I thought you did a great job.
Thank you. But, you know, I think truthfully, I think this is a lot of things to commit to for 1 year. So I want everyone's feedback about what should be a priority for us and what are things that are actually practical for us as a board. I've been thinking a lot about number 5, for instance, and I don't know that this is phrased correctly, first of all. But I obviously understand the role of the board is not to micromanage how things are going at the school, but to support initiatives at the school.
So is this, if I understand correctly, this is when they sent a whole bunch of teachers to NELMS to get training and then to get feedback on how that went, right? Is it specifically just the middle school or is it?
Yes, New England
Yes.
League of Middle Schools.
Yeah, that's right. I should.
Yeah, and I think they came here and did like a big visit, survey, yeah. But again, like, I don't know how much it's our purview to sort of oversee that, but I don't know what to do. Yeah.
So I wasn't here last meeting, but sometimes it's good to kind of break apart the school board's goals versus what are the school's goals, and you guys maybe had that conversation.
We didn't really.
But there's board goals, and then sometimes there's school goals. goals, and it doesn't mean they don't overlap some, and sometimes it's more of facilitation. But, some of that stuff that's on the list may be the school's goals from an administration, staff perspective versus the responsibility that falls on the board.
Right.
And that may shorten your list up if you start identifying, or
Yeah.
change your list.
And
Start
that,
identifying some of that stuff.
you could include some of these things without having them be school board goals, because it's not your goal to do that, but
Correct.
your expectation could be that during the principal's report, or with me, whoever, that we update you on the work, because some people weren't here when the NELS report was done. And we can put it back in the drive, and then you can ask the administrators to update you on the work that they've been doing in the middle school, which has been whole bunches of it. And that,
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was just thinking, we could maybe put that under number 1, support student achievement and engagement, just with like, D could be receive updates from administration on various things that they have to improve achievement stuff, and then NELS would fit under that.
That works for me,
And just in years past,
And-
we ran into situations where
totally.
the school board's goals weren't really the school board's goals, they were the school's goals, and we didn't fit into accomplishing that other than to put it on a piece of paper.
Right,
But for us to be involved in how it's going, then we can say, well, what can we do?
Right.
Something we can do to help
Yeah.
further it.
And in a lot of cases, our ability to further is financially to a certain
It might
extent,
be,
right?
right?
right.
Or financially, or freeing up time, or
Yeah, and so that I think would fit nicely under student achievement, because I think, 1A is engage with staff administration to learn about barriers and challenges. Oftentimes, those are financial barriers or challenges with, the math program, like we talked about last week, that like people work crazy about the math program. So like, I think that is a good goal, to continue to engage with people to learn about what their challenges are, if they're having challenges, and how we can support them. But again, please feel free to comment or change verbiage or whatever. I threw these together based on our discussion. I couldn't, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. I couldn't remember what the heat registers, the heating things that we,
unit ventilators.
Unit ventilators.
You said heating up, you're talking about the heating up.
yeah, it was like, they're called something, I can't remember.
unit ventilators.
Unit ventilators. So, if you wanna talk about the facilities stuff,
Yeah.
the solar project's the only one that has a clock ticking on it.
Right.
Because the warranty on the roof stays valid if we get a solar array on within 12 months of them completing the installation. So
Right.
call it about now. So if we're gonna do a solar project, that's a project we want to get lined up and installed next summer.
Okay, so it needs to be done by next summer.
Yep.
I have
Otherwise,
some info on that too.
otherwise, we can recertify the roof. We can put the solar system on, have them come recertify the roof to continue the warranty, but
There's probably a cost.
presumably.
Yeah.
Chris is working with Wes.
Golem.
Well, I had a meeting with him, so
You did, okay.
I don't think he's talked to Chris in a while, but.
You
Did he
I
recently?
talked to Chris before
Oh, good.
tonight's meeting, just to recap some stuff.
Cool, okay.
Talk about other things.
Yeah, and I think,
So that's the one that has a clock ticking on it.
yes,
The unit ventilators and stuff, that's gonna become a much bigger project, because that's gonna require a little more groundwork, some engineering, and that may be a 2-year out project, because it's.
yeah, and I think that's totally fine. And Zach, what I said last meeting was that like, I'm concerned, quite frankly, that when you're gone, if you're not
I'm not
running
gonna
again.
die.
Well, I know,
I
but you
might.
might not be at every single Wednesday meeting.
I definitely won't be once I retire.
That I'm concerned that like, if we don't set up a sort of strategic game plan for like the next few years, that like,
So I think Chris is trying to tidy that up now too. If you guys want, I can work with Chris just to try to help outline, say, a 5 years worth of,
that would be awesome. That would accomplish goal number 3.
please put it on paper so that
Yeah,
there's
I
something
mean,
there.
I really think we just need to identify what needs to be updated and improved, and like a timeline. So like, if the unit ventilators are anticipated for 2026.
Ideally, you want to get to the point where you're funding, you continue to seed the fund a year in advance of the project so that
Right.
the money is there, so that you can start the project. The moment when the kids roll out of school.
So it's not like we vote on it in March, we don't know if we're doing the project, we like got
You wanna have-
engineering.
You wanna secure the funding,
Yeah.
so the way that fund has been working for us so far has been well, is we've always been a year ahead with funding. So that, you know, you have the money, you work the project, you do the detail, you engineer, and you get it done.
Yes,
The biggest thing is just gonna be getting support from the community, who can exceed
Yeah.
that fund. So
For
that
sure.
we can continue to say, okay, the goal for, you know, the 26 summer is gonna be unit ventilators, the goal for the 27 summer is gonna be, and you're gonna run, I mean, there isn't a lot of big projects, the glazing needs to be addressed at some point, but it's still watertight, it's just the seals are starting to let go.
Yeah.
But it's still keeping the weather out. That's gonna be a big project, that's gonna be the last thing on the envelope. And then, from there, unit ventilators, everything else has been recently or relatively recently upgraded and updated. So the building will be mechanically in really good shape. And then you can get into cosmetic stuff if you want to start, you know, replacing floor tiles and all that stuff.
Please. I don't know, we talked about being nervous about you not being here at the last meeting because things like the electrical upgrades, we heard that was a significant priority for teachers, having one outlet in their rooms.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to use extension cords, we're not supposed to string extension cords together. But if we started talking about that, no one at the table is gonna understand what needs to be done and the extent of that project.
The tricky part with that so the opportunity to do that project was
I know.
with an addition and renovation, that's why that was proposed the way it was. That's a huge project if you start, you're rewiring the building, you're opening up drywall walls, you're tearing all the ceilings down to get the wire runs in. It becomes a very large project. That's one of those projects that may not be feasible until after an addition is put in, so that you can try to time it so that you can transition students out of sections of the building. But it's not a 6-week, 8-week project that you get done in the summertime. We're tearing the building apart to do it.
So there's nothing you can do about individual classrooms, that makes sense, you have to rewire.
Not easily, no,
Yeah.
and there's a ton of engineering that would go into it
Yeah.
beforehand. You know, you can load out the circuits to see if you can add additional runs, but you gotta,
It's a whole building problem.
it is.
Could you explain to me what the problem is, that there's when everybody plugs in, there's too much load? I don't know
So,
what-
so when the building was built, it was built pre-computers, pre-devices,
So wasn't expecting all the load.
wasn't expecting as much of a load, so they built it at the time with an outlet, you know, on each wall, or whatever it may have been. And the demands have certainly started to exceed that now. If you're building a building today, you'd have an outlet every 6 feet or every 10 feet going around
Well,
the
plus
room.
you have them coming from the
Yeah.
ceiling.
You'd have them all over, you'd have more electrical capacity than you
Okay, so it's really just that we don't have enough
It's,
capacity.
it's a symptom of the age of the building and when it was original.
I just wanted to.
Capacity and lack of outlets. I mean, you know, think about your classroom. If you had one outlet, you have to structure your entire classroom around what you have to
Are there
plug in.
So there are actually classrooms that have one
What?
outlet here? I mean, I had.
Few outlets.
Yeah.
Your classroom, your old classroom, I think had
Was
some
maybe different
additionals
because it
dropped in
was-
because it was a science room,
Yeah,
there was some
I had
additionals
some.
dropped in. But the bulk of them have less than is probably ideal, is the best way to put it.
It's the placement of it, that you know, you have to plug in your board, whatever kind of board
And
you're
then your
using,
desk
and
is
then,
sitting there,
yeah,
and
and
then
then-
you've occupied half of your
Sure,
electrical
I get
capacity.
Okay.
But that's a much bigger project. Unit ventilators is a big project, but not unsurmountable. That you could phase through, you could do a floor or a side of the building or a wing or whatever over the course of the summer and get half of it done 1 year, half of it done the other year if you had to. It's finding the right unit, the right form factor, because you're gonna have to open walls into that as well.
got it. See, all of this stuff, we are not gonna know.
Still gonna be on South Road.
Oh, I know, and I have your phone number,
I know.
but.
So there's that.
But, yeah, I mean, I would just like to see us have some sort of like, and I know Chris has has a list.
He's updating stuff. Every
Yes.
conversation we have, just tonight when I was talking to him, he didn't realize that we redid the parking lot 8 years ago.
Okay,
So now he's updating his list, so he has dating on when the last time it was done, so we can try to track lifespan and everything else.
perfect.
That's probably 5 years, not the new parking lot, but
I was gonna
the old
ask.
surface
Yeah.
is probably 5 years
Before resurfacing.
before needing to be resurfaced. If we stay up on the crack ceiling, it's gonna last a lot longer,
Okay,
which he knows, and that's why it's getting done the way it's supposed to be. That can get us an extra 5 years.
Cool.
which ties into what you were talking about with the CIP.
I don't know if that was at the urgency of the planning board, or no, we reached out to them directly because we needed. to get
I
this-
think they
we had
were
to get our
using them,
chapter
so
done
we used them
so that we could get
too.
the impact
Yeah.
fees sorted out.
Yeah.
So
I think
we contracted them to help us with that last time.
we probably, after going through that process, we probably have enough between you and Chris working on a list to add pieces and just
Right,
update it.
yeah. The solar one, just to,
That expires in 2026, by the way.
Right, it was a 10-year, right? Yeah. 7?
6.
6
What's
years.
the-
This was a 6-year plan.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think it said on this one it expired. I mean, I'm sure it did in another spot.
Drawing a blank.
Ellen, would
I
you
think it
mind
was 20.
going back over that list? I was just noticing,
Yeah.
so I got kicked off and when I got back on, it muted me.
Oh, okay.
So would you mind just to read the list?
Just trying to
off
keep
again?
Facebook
All the
accurate.
things that have been accomplished.
Okay, so the plan to come up with the decommissioning of modular units and the design, facility expansion, so that's been done. Traffic flow redesign is something that we continue to work on. The gym floor replacement was done, the construction of the new septic fields and upper athletic field stabilization was done. The phase 2 of the facility expansion, which is something we're still working on. The roof replacement, done. Solar installation, something that we're working on, you were just talking about before, so they would have heard that.
Yeah.
And then the additional DCEF playing field that we thought right now really probably isn't that big of a,
In the septic system.
yeah, did I not say that? Sorry if I missed it, septic system, yeah, that's fine.
Excellent, thank you.
So just about everything on this capital investment plan has been done.
I
Awesome.
mean, the only thing that you really want to consider is, do you need to leave like an additional playing field on there or not?
Yeah.
Because that's probably the one that is least likely to get traction.
I feel like the facility expansion plan is a really big thing, and that's kind of like what we should focus on, and then the other things that need to be fixed in the building before we worry about it. Right. Playing field expansion.
I think hindsight being 2020, seemed like the community has been very supportive of making the improvements to the building separately and just funding it continually. So I would continue to make those improvements that way. And any addition, I would just focus on just the square footage in the building itself. And a lot of the things that we were attempting to do in the renovation side of it, we're starting to knock off anyway.
Yeah.
So you're shrinking that side of it anyway, but I would say just focus on, all right, here's 30, 40, 50, 60,000 square feet again, whatever it adds up to.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. So if it's just, this is what an addition would be, with just this stuff.
And then we're gonna continue,
Forget about all the
every
other
year, we're
stuff.
still gonna come and say, hey, we'd like 400,000 or 200,000.
And the only
or
thing we might
60,000.
add to it is maybe electrical, because it sounds like that needs to be done.
I think what it does is once you have that footprint, presumably you'd have a little bit of excess capacity initially in the addition, enough classroom space to be able to get and phase through kind of the electrical side of it.
You're thinking just meaning that you can move classrooms over there and you have a couple free work
Yeah,
on that, and then you.
they
move
work
them in
on
and
that,
move on that. So
and
it's
then
not
you
just
probably
like-
end up kind of getting a classroom done, you rough in, similar to the way the alarm system was done, you rough everything in, say during the summer. And then you get it all in, and then you start running individual classroom trunks when you can empty out a classroom. And then you tie it all in maybe the next summer.
Can you
Doesn't
do it
sound like
like
a
the
lot
fire
of
panel
you.
where you put the new electrical panel in while the other one's there, just to have it ready to tie in, or does it stay?
That's a great question for the engineers in that case. I just know,
Zach has his limits.
well, I know time-wise, we
Yeah.
don't have enough time as far as the process for decommissioning the
Yeah.
old system and that we want to lean on the engineers for that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why they get that big rubber stamp.
I just want to go back to the solar, because there's two options, basically. You can have the electric utility install it, they own it,
Oh,
and you
purchase.
and you get a reduction on your electricity, or you pay for it yourself. So I'm just thinking, considering where we are right now, we might want to think about that.
So
Is that,
I'm sorry, can I?
Please,
So when,
this is a discussion.
yeah,
This is a work session.
so when we were looking at the addition and we were looking at solar, and we talked to a couple of contractors during that process. At that time, it seemed like the most practical way for us to obtain, to put a solar system on the building was through a power purchase. And that's because the federal tax benefits don't apply to schools, but they do apply to the utilities or the companies that install it. So they receive the credit, they discount it. They install the system, we get a discounted rate on electricity. So we're saving the town money in that regard. We're not outlaying cash, which is a positive.
and I think in 5 years.
5 years, we can buy it. And then you could warrant article that out. Or you could even start in year one and say, okay, if you know that your purchase price at the end of 5 years is $200,000, you can warrant article $40,000 every year in your fund. So that when the 5 years comes up, you can then own your panels. That to me seems like the most practical way to do it. And it also allows us with minimal to no outlay
That's what I think too.
to put it get the system up running, generating green electricity. And then getting.
And
it
as
better
Ellen
by-
said, using it as like an educational tool.
Right. I'm sure you could make a deal with them to say, hey, can you just put a little solar thing?
I was gonna say, it'd be really slick to get a couple down low at
Yeah,
ground
just where
level.
the kids can go
so
and
they
plug
can
them in,
see
see
it.
how much they're making, do
Yeah.
wireless, so go in the classroom.
And
You can compare on cloudy days or sunny days.
So, and we have solar now in all of our buildings at work. It's something we do on every single one of them. And we've got a monitor in the showroom at every single store that shows usage, what's
Oh,
coming
that's
in,
cool.
average and all that stuff.
It's on the Pembroke website
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
for the school.
Yeah, it's really
Oh,
cool.
cool.
I mean, it's all data that, I mean, so the older kids can use that data to kind of do more research, but the little ones can, just sort of actually see.
You can see that it's doing something on a nice day, they can see that
Yeah.
line spiking and it's, more simple form. But I think that the way for us to achieve, if the goal is to get a solar system on the building, I think the only practical way for us to do it is probably gonna be through a power
I
purchase.
think so too, and
And the
Weston-
warranty and stuff still applies even if we don't own the,
Theoretically. So those are all.
you told me 2 companies that were good, you told me like one better than the other, and I forgot to bring paperwork, but.
Is that West,
Probably not.
it's at that,
West was,
I mean,
I liked one better than the
there's
other.
bunch of them that have obviously popped up over the, it's a whole new industry, so there's
Yeah, he gave me packets for both, I just don't remember.
I think for us, the process would be in the end is that we RFP it out to see where we get the best buy in 5 years and where we get the best rate.
Yeah.
Because the product is all probably gonna be fairly
Yeah.
similar, but we can weigh it out that
So
way.
is that something we can kind of, I mean, I know we're putting it on Chris, but is that something we can have him do?
So Chris is,
Because you said we've got a year.
well, we have, so timeline wise, we have a year to get it up and running. We wanna bid probably, I'm gonna say January, because we probably won't get it out in February, so that it's done and awarded in March, so that you can get that slot to start working on it as soon as the kids are in school. The install won't be awful, because it's a nice new flat roof, they're gonna get all the material up there, they're gonna rip through it. You know, you're probably talking 3 or 4 weeks, but nothing.
You have to put stable ones on, right? You can't put tracking ones on.
I won't, on flat roofs, I've only seen
It's stable.
the stationary ones. I mean, the sunflowers are slick and, you know, that would be a cool,
That's what I
that'd be a
thought.
cool way to do it for the kids to
Oh,
see.
yeah, we can put a tracking one down. That's
Somewhere.
really cool, because you hear it, every couple of minutes you hear it move.
Oh, that's nice.
That would be really cool.
But I mean, that's another kind of aspect of it, just so that
And that might be something that, oh, yeah.
you can add down the road even or whatever.
Okay, well, I was thinking maybe the cost would be low enough that we could just purchase that ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that, I don't know the numbers wise, but I think realistically, we need to, Chris is doing the load calculations right now and seeing how much, they're doing the estimates on how much power we can pull off the roof. He's working with a couple of people to get that number. That'll give us an idea of what we can actually generate, which will help you size the solar array, but we want to be to bid January-ish, which is probably with budget season. and
Wouldn't that be
everything.
great if you could just check this off next year?
That would be excellent. A green circle.
It'd be nice to retire. It'd be nice for me to retire knowing that it's awarded and done.
For sure.
That would be really nice.
Well, then maybe we shouldn't, so that you don't retire.
I'm definitely retiring. Looky, listen. I'm retiring.
Okay,
I
fine.
wanted to bring one more thing up too, is that piece of property that the school owns.
Yes, I forgot to put that on the
So,
list.
So I was talking to Wes, he had, you know Wes, he's got lots of
Big ideas.
pretty amazing ideas, big ideas. But one of the things he said to me, because at first I was thinking, just sell it, use the money to go to the things that we need to do for the school. But maybe we could do something a little bit more, green and more inventive, like low-cost housing could go there. Maybe you could put a solar thing there for the low-cost housing
So
and any additional.
what I think is tricky for us is we are very limited with what we can do with that land. At the moment, what we are doing is stopping that land from being developed. So it's off the
Is there
tax.
something written down that
We
there are
can't,
requirements of what we can do with that?
we can't even sell that land. The town, the select board can sell it. The school, I guess the school technically.
No, the school,
The
you
school
own
can
it.
sell it.
You own it.
But with this,
Would that need to be approved by the voters?
Yeah.
So it'd have to go on a warrant article.
and that's, so right now, we're preventing the development or the addition of 20 or 30, it's what, 80, 70 acres, 20 houses, plus or minus.
Except that I thought it was not that buildable.
It wasn't buildable for a high school conveniently,
Gotcha.
but could you drop houses on it? You're putting houses on it. Or-
But you don't have to put houses on it that are like taking, 3 acres every single house. You could do it in much more.
Well, the zoning in town is still for 3 acres.
Right, so like,
I understand that, but you could do it as a cluster housing with a lot of land kept. I mean, there's a lot of different.
Kept in
things.
conservation, but the concerning side to that, I guess, is, for me, is if you put 20 houses there and there's a kid or two that comes out of every one of those houses, we've just increased our crowding. If it's $15,000 to educate a child, the tax revenue off of the property doesn't even cover the cost of the education for the kids that they come off the property. I think.
I was gonna say, you can't control what happens to that.
Right.
The minute you sell it.
We can.
we could sell it to a developer who says
I'm
we're
not
gonna.
gonna
do
agree with that. I
XYZ.
mean, the church sold that land and they turned it into, it was a senior housing. They have control of that and it turned into a senior housing.
They're not, I think part of that is the church isn't governed by the taxpayers.
Yeah, I know, but if that was the plan and you had it like as a warrant article and people agreed to it, like, I mean, if it's, you don't want kids there, you could also do, an over 55
Do you mean
community or
like,
something.
we choose who we sell it to? Is that
No,
sort
no,
of
you
what
What
you?
the right covenants in.
You would,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
gonna say
yeah.
covenant.
Right. So I mean, there's things that you can do. You can't just say, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
You can certainly do some things that might be
Does,
helpful.
does that, I've always thought that land could better suit the town. Not necessarily the school, but the town to be turned into open space for a couple of soccer fields.
So you could put athletic fields there. You could put solar there too.
You could put athletic fields and solar,
The problem with the solar is that they're,
the trees are tall and.
no, this is New Hampshire Electric Co-op, and that's the other one.
PSNH.
It's not PSNet anymore. I remember
Oh,
that.
sorry, Eversource.
Yeah, Eversource, thanks, yeah.
But you could still, I mean, so we talked to the contractors about that as well, about adding the solar right there, and they said if there's three-phase power at the poles, which there is, you can put a solar farm out there. It doesn't have to be attached to a building. It can
So that's
be-
another
You're just spinning the meter
possibility.
backwards all
Solar
day.
farm and put some athletic fields in.
But that's something that I think,
But I still,
That's nothing we can do right now, but I'm just saying.
nothing we can do now, and I also don't know that the school would want to still own that property if there's gonna be like a town solar farm.
well, right, I mean, there was a warrant article last year about the town and the school working
Right.
together on solar projects, which I support in principle.
Yeah.
Right, and so obviously we're working on solar projects, I think the town's working on solar projects, and I think the intent, I know when talking to a couple people in town, one of the thoughts was that that would make a great solar farm for the town/school. It's different, you can't, the town's funds and school's funds
Right.
aren't necessarily commingled, so you can put it there, if it saves the school money, it saves the town money. If it saves the town money, it saves, it's the
But I
same
wouldn't-
either way.
I mean, this is obviously all theoretical, but I wouldn't want to own the property if it's just for the use of the town, because I would
Right.
wanna own the liability or,
You could
Like-
deed it, I mean, at that
Yeah.
point, maybe you deed it back to the board of select.
Right.
Or the board of select.
I'm just saying, things to think about.
I would say that that's probably, I think some really great things could be done for the community. Rec space, ball
Yeah.
fields. We really could do something nice. I don't know that the climate in this community right now,
Is for that. I was originally thinking, is there some way we can make money off of it? That's what I was originally, but doing it in a way that serves the town.
and I don't know what the cash value would be if we were to sell the lot, but it probably wouldn't bring
Not,
a whole lot of money in the grand scheme of.
Relative to what our budget is.
Right, I mean, I
or
think-
relative to the cost of like the new addition. I've seen people say, why don't we
Sell that
sell
big
80
addition.
acres to pay for it? And you're like,
And what's
we
that,
could pay for one classroom.
what's that 80 acres is worth? Maybe $1
Couple
million
hundred.
bucks, maybe, because there's a road there, I don't know the condition of the road right now, but maybe it's worth $1 million, but that's not gonna do a whole lot. It's better conserved the way it is, which is just as,
Just food for thought, just to think that there might be something we could do for the community.
I mean, I do think it would be worth meeting, and I don't know if there's like a Board of Selectmen committee who would want to talk about this, because we haven't reached out to them since the warrant article was approved
About the solar?
about the solar.
Well,
so-
I know when I talked to Wes, when they found out it was 2 different electric utilities, it was kind of like, well, that's not gonna work.
I think that has been we worked with them at the SAU too, so I think that was what the intention was, we'd work together and I think we have been.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be worth meeting with someone from Board of Selectmen to ask them if they have thoughts, how they would want to work together or what they would be looking for. I don't know that they're like have the capacity to deal with that right now either. I mean,
Yeah,
You've got a lot on your
certainly,
plate.
they're in the throes of their budget right now.
right, I was
We're-
like,
we're-
they're waist deep in budget,
We're minutes away from being waist deep in budget.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so all of this, like, exactly, we talked about this last week, but I would like to bring up our goals.
I like it better when you talk about stuff when I'm not here.
Right, on like a more regular cadence, so we're like bringing them out every work session or just discussing any updates or like brainstorming about projects or whatever.
I love the idea of just making a poster and having it here, and then when we come, you can just like, put the dot where
Big check.
it's done, yeah.
Yeah,
I just-
okay.
well, I'm
I have a
I'm
cricket, I
list
can make
person.
anything.
Well, but I
Buttons.
think
I even buttons.
Did I tell you Pembroke they did a template and they have it in their drive, so that's exactly what they
It's just
use.
curious, so it's.
Someone has it open and
And
when
we
we
just
go
go
through, that's
through
what,
it, yeah.
yep, you turn it green and
I
it's
just
a
love that idea.
visual.
It's a real, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great visual and it keeps reminding you to go back and check it.
I mean, you don't like it just rattling around right
No.
here while you're sleeping?
Right, you wake up saying, budget priority
No, I'm
number
the kind of
4.
person who wakes up and gets the paper and writes it
And
down, so I
writes it
go back
down.
to sleep.
I'm like, oh, solar, Dog's okay, all right, thanks.
So that is sort of my plan for the goals, is to put it on the agenda more often. But what do people think about the goals? What do you want to change? What do you want to add? What do you want to take out? Do we want to add the Stage Road property?
I don't think so. Sounds to me like too much is up in the
I
air
think
right
that's
now.
a bigger undertaking.
But
Yeah.
maybe somehow we can do a reminder a year from now and think about it. Like, I'd like it to be something that comes up every
I was
once in a
gonna
while.
say, I'd like it to be, maybe not like full discussions about it, but I'd like it to be brought up every so often, keep our brains fresh on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I don't think we can do anything about it right now.
Right, no, I think
So,
just continue.
If we can bring it up
brainstorm.
again, like, next March.
yeah, and I think, so long as Wes is still interested in working with us, I think he will remind us frequently, and we should remind ourselves that potentially there's use for the Stage Road property somewhere.
I think yes, the Stage Road property, and I think back to the solar thing, I think we should,
Yes,
we should
solar is
put a
more
hard, we
immediate.
just need to put a hard deadline on the board to say
Yes,
a bid document package is ready for
I mean, I'm happy to add that to the draft.
January
The-
15th.
I was gonna suggest that if you don't make these measurable, then
Yeah.
that's how
Yes.
they just sit. So if you
Totally.
go step by step and, you're saying engage with staff administration, how and when are you gonna, what's the plan to accomplish that? Otherwise it sits and you just kind of look around, did that get done? Nope. But if you don't,
Yeah,
what's
totally.
your expectation and what's the timeline that you'd like to?
Yeah, I mean, and quite frankly, Patty, I'd love to hear from you about like which of these are not feasible or like which are not like under our purview, right? Like, I don't wanna overstep, obviously, I'm cautious about making the staff and administration like do things for us, because that's not how this always all works, but yeah, I mean, I'm certainly open to ideas.
What does it look like to engage with staff and administration to learn about?
I mean, honestly, like, I think the math presentation last year was like the perfect
I
example.
think that's curriculum
Okay.
presentations.
Yep,
that
So
we
do
need
you
to have, or
want-
team presentations or
and that's
something
exactly,
different.
I think, what you need to make it measurable. So you want a data presentation, like October, we usually typically get the state results. So we could present that to you. You could say in October, we'll hear about the
And that would
testing,
be-
state testing.
That would be something you could almost build a loose calendar around, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if that's something we do, like October, we do this, November, so we could even give like a,
Everybody knows a year in advance, and then if you get it right, you
Yeah.
can just reapply.
Do you
I
want admin to take 1A and try to map something out? Because then I can talk to Brian, Kristen, and Lisa about what's going on and what timeline makes sense. And, Kristen may say, oh, we're working on this and I could report out on this in May. Or,
Yeah, and I
And
mean, I'm cautious of like creating too much additional work just for work. Like, I don't feel like we need to have presentations unless it would be beneficial for you guys to have
There's,
us help you.
there's
right?
probably every other month to every quarter, a good bit of stuff that could be dumped down from the admin to the board level. I don't think there's enough to aggregate on a monthly basis.
because you get an extensive principals
Right.
report
Right.
every month.
But I
Extensive.
think every 2 to 3 months, there's probably something there. I mean, the high school reporting thing may change.
What if we said every, like,
Quarter?
essential trimester? Because
Yeah,
we're
one
on our
for-
trimester schedule, so.
Oh, yeah.
So 3 times a year, you just do it, your work session 3 times a year is also data on whatever it works out today. Admin thinks they can flows into the cycle. You're gonna have curriculum approvals at the end of the school year typically.
yeah, I
Correct.
don't remember.
And you're gonna
I'll have
have
to
your,
look at it.
We have 4 this year.
yeah, so you're gonna have a huge swing for the curriculum updates. You're gonna have your data dump from the state testing, probably in the first one, and then the middle one maybe is where you dial in on, you know, is it math, is it literacy, is it, you know, initiatives that are tied to that? Is there things we can do to help support that, or what, you know, what have the initiatives done that we've already put in place? Loosely speaking.
During third trimester, if you do your curriculum review, that's a good time to ask staff based upon the revised curriculum, is there something the board can do to support you?
You'll have staff
Yeah.
representation, for example, especially if there's 4 of them, you're gonna have half the building.
Yeah.
It's all the arts.
Yeah, it's art, music, wellness, and library.
Okay, not half, but you'll have quite a few people still.
They have a lot of stuff they always want.
Yeah.
Those are the departments that tend to,
Consume
Yeah.
stuff, that's high consumables.
and then, okay, so we've got the October will be data, the last trimester will be curriculum, and then we'll figure out something in between.
Winter chicken dinner.
Okay, that sounds good to me. And I think improving communication with the town,
Do we need to put some
Yeah, like,
ideas here?
It's funny, we had a training this morning with School Board Association for student reps, which every high school has to have one on the board, and that's exactly a topic that was discussed, and, you know, Eric Christina, the executive director for School Board Association, said it's funny that people keep talking about needing more communication, and if you look back 5 years, we have more communication now than we
Totally.
ever have, like, it's just, it's everywhere and there's so much of it, but everyone talks about wanting
We need
more.
I
And,
think-
you know, how do you determine,
I think
how
the
much
difference
more
is,
and how?
it's not communication that I think the board wants, the board needs quality communication.
And I think it's
And we need a
the
feedback
the
loop.
ease of finding the information. I mean,
Yeah, so that's,
I'm pretty tech savvy, but I always have to go find stuff.
Well, and I think too, I think we become numb to what we forget, because we're getting it from all directions, and we talk about this in detail too, right? Like all the information we send out, and people are still like, I didn't see that, I didn't see it, just because we're just so.
You get
busy
so much.
and forget. So.
I think we've also been, we've been asked a lot of times about the video. Make it easier to make the video accessible faster, so people can see it. I mean, I would think that's something that.
so we do need to talk about that. It's gonna be an agenda item for next
October.
May.
Okay.
Because we've gotten a lot of complaints about like noise quality on the videos and stuff.
And it takes a while before it's put up there and things like that.
It's a bigger conversation, we have some feedback from our tech specialist at the school, so we have
Okay.
options.
Yeah, so we'll put that on the agenda.
Because that would be, coming from what we talk about there, that might be a specific item that would go under there.
Improve the quality of live feeds.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the board has to sort of decide what, you know, right now we're using our Facebook for really only like school board meeting
Right.
updates.
I like
Or,
what
do
you
we
put
wanna use it for other things, highlighting cool things that are going on at the school? Or, you know, I'm mindful of not just like resharing the school's posts, because those are shared by the school, those are shared by Sport DCS or Deerfield Education. They're often shared by the PTO. So like, I don't know that it adds anything to just like keep sharing the same things,
Do
but
you post the agenda too?
yes. But like, what do we want to communicate?
Well, I mean, one of the things that really stands out to me is the success of students at high schools.
Yes,
And I would love that we could somehow put, you know, I don't know how we get the information, but we have, you know, this student was in the play at Co-Brown and this one did, you know, some kind of agricultural thing at Pembroke. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. I would love to be able to get one cool thing of a student from each of the schools that they go to that we can then post so people know what's going on in the schools and they know how the high school kids are going. And, you know, I think we tend to forget like they're gone. We don't, they're not our kids anymore, but of course they are.
So I'm wondering, the other high schools probably have some sort of newsletter or something, right, that the kids run or something. Is there a way that we can even just put a link to each of those schools' newsletters?
But we don't know that they would be Deerfield kids. I would
No, we
really like-
don't, but I think it's
But
still.
that's where our kids are.
Right, but that's where our
I
kids are, and I think
know.
it's still good information just to see what those schools are
that's
doing
true.
in general.
I was gonna say the flip side of that is we want them to become part of that school and that school's community, so why are we segregating Deerfield kids back out of those for the sake of what the communities? This is just the kids that are in Concord where our kids are, and maybe kids they know that are friends of their own students or
Yeah.
anything else, so.
Yeah, I just struggle with I agree, I think highlighting specific achievements or cool things would be great. I just am cautious of just regurgitating all of the information that already exists somewhere. And just being people seeing our Facebook page is just basically a spam page that's just
Where it
full of
posts on 7 different
reposting.
places by the
Correct.
same person over and over and over and over again.
I think that's, so for 1B, what does that mean? Just saying improving communication, so if you're, is it your intention to start putting things on the town's website, like you've discussed?
So we are doing that. I'm meeting with Steve
I saw your
Gemelli,
email.
yes. I was I'm tagging Ellen in too.
Yeah.
You don't have to count
When
them.
are you meeting them?
I'm meeting him next Monday afternoon.
What
At
time?
3.
I can do that.
Okay, perfect. He's just setting up one login for us, and you and I can share it.
Where are you meeting them?
At GBW.
Okay.
So we're gonna post our agendas and stuff on the town site.
The other thing is agendas and meeting minutes,
I know.
is that your plan, is to post
Yes.
it just like every other?
Yeah, and I think that's a good question. Are you
Are you posting it there or are you linking it back to our site?
posting?
Because I think that was something that Andy was trying to sort out with Steve at one point. Where do you keep the information so that, Andy
Is it like a
wanted-
PDF that you're
Yeah,
just
it would
putting?
have to be, so basically my plan would be, which is a little bit
So they can't change it.
nuisance for me, but I'll have to download it from the SAU
Convert it
website.
to a PDF?
Well, it downloads into a PDF.
Okay.
anyway. And then I'll just upload that onto the town.
It's in your drive though.
The minutes?
I can have Ashley send them to you in a PDF.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Or
I
you
mean, I
wanna
think
do
we
it
can
once they're
figure.
approved?
Cause she posts them on the website, our website,
Yes.
in a PDF, so she could just send them
That's
to you
true.
at the same time.
That's true.
And I think when Andy was trying to figure out was how to do it, so it
He
was,
didn't have to download.
there was a
and
link,
upload.
so it was just on the SAU's website, you went here, click,
I really don't
hyperlink
think that
over,
you can
there
do
was a
that
link.
on SharePoint. I really don't think you
I
can.
can fly an
We
airplane,
are-
but I can't.
We are moving to Google-based site.
Oh,
Yeah. So the
Amazing.
concern, it's behind the scenes and you don't know it, but I swear I've been working on this and
You were
hammering
working
this.
on this when I still worked here.
I know,
Yeah.
well, I made progress.
I didn't have any gray hair when we
So,
started working on this.
Because of
Deb
this-
Bover is a good friend of mine.
sometimes it's about the people that work for you. And yeah, I have some people that can make this happen. And some of the concern was, oh my gosh, there's so much content and going back and converting. I said, no, leave it the way it is, but we can start now,
Yeah.
moving forward. And if, I'm sorry, people aren't gonna be crazy about having to go back and it's still in SharePoint, but the stuff from now moving forward, we
So you
can,
should set like a
There could be a
quantifiable
legacy
date.
we can do it.
You should
It's
set
like-
January 1st, it's on Google. So it's like a date,
Correct.
so you have a hard deadline.
We just have a little bit of training to do, but yes,
Yeah, so
that's the plan.
in healthcare, right, if we switch our electronic health records, we have a legacy system and then our current system, and then over time,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
start moving things
And you have
onto the
one
new
really old
system.
person that was on the original
Yes.
system that knows how to.
Correct, who knows how to use it, and then when someone has time or whatever, can,
Well, it would really be just, if somebody wanted to look at, something that was posted
Old
3 years
budgets.
ago, right, they're gonna pull it up and it's gonna be probably in a SharePoint link, which
Fine.
that they can still open it. But if they look at something newer, it will be, you'll get, routed to a Google Drive.
I think that works.
So I have some questions going back to the kids and the progress and what they're doing. Do the high schools, still do honor roll, things like that?
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's the kind of thing, I don't know if we do that. Do we do that now? Do you do for the high school kids when they make honor roll? I mean, that's the kind of thing that'd be nice to post. So
I don't know what Co-Brown, I don't know enough about Co-Brown,
I would imagine they do.
bank.
But see, I hear what you're
Or
saying, Zach,
National
about they
Honor
go to that school
Society.
and they're part of that school, but I'm still thinking that people in the community wanna know how the Deerfield kids are doing, like I'm talking, like say Nancy, right? Shouldn't care about the Concord kids, I mean,
Whoa,
she
whoa,
might, she might.
I take offense to that. Nancy cares
Genius.
about, she cares about all the kids. I've never met somebody who cares more about the kids than Nancy.
All right, let me rephrase that.
I got you, Nancy.
Let me rephrase that. Nancy would like to hear that a student that she had so many years ago was in a play or did this or did some kind of activity that was really cool.
You mean the Concord residents? not is that what you mean, the kids that live in Concord versus?
No, I'm talking
Ellen
about,
wants to just,
I'm talking about highlighting Deerfield kids
unacknowledged.
that are doing things in other schools. You guys
I'm
have
just
been
having fun
talking,
with you.
shush, you guys are just talking about highlighting what the schools are doing, and I guess I disagree. I think I'd like to highlight what our Deerfield kids are doing in those schools, so that they can see that they're successful. And we're trying to reach the whole community, we're not just reaching the kids' parents and stuff.
Right.
So the community would be like, oh, I remember when she was 5 years old and was in church, you know, I mean, that's the thing I'm talking about. So I still think you can link to the high school, what the high school's doing, so they can see what's happening, but I think people wanna know what the kids are doing.
It's hard,
Get that.
just having worked in a high school. So, I mean, think about if you were here teaching and you said, oh, the Allenstown School Board wants me to, I gotta highlight, oh, where do you live? Once they go, they're really just,
I know, I get that, and so
it's hard to tease out.
the thing is, that would be the way of trying to tease it out, like, how would we do that? So, I mean, maybe it's a way of just sending an email, hey, anybody got any news about their kids at the school? I don't know. Putting an honor roll would be good.
Yep.
Doing, what I was thinking about something about the end of the year, I can't remember what it was.
Graduation.
Well, graduation, you could do that, like where, you know, if they're going to
Yeah.
college or they got a job or whatever, it'd be nice to hear about what the kids from Deerfield are doing. And it's also a way for us to keep track of what the kids from Deerfield are doing. Which,
So maybe this is more about, like, before that idea of improving communication with the town about what the kids are doing, maybe we also identify how we're gonna communicate with the other schools first. about what
with
our
the
individual
kids and
are
families
doing.
directly. It doesn't always have to come from the schools. And I know that there are parents out there too that it won't just be their kids. They'll be like, hey, all these kids were on the football team from Deerfield and they won the.
Yeah, I mean,
So
like-
I coached them and I did this and I did that.
Right.
Yeah,
So, like,
I'm just saying.
this is very different, but like my college will send out being like, do any of our alumni have anything to highlight? So
They're
like,
looking for money.
period, well, like if I got a new job or something, I could like tell them and then put it in some sort of newsletter,
And then they look,
which I wouldn't, but like,
I mean, it might not work, it might not work, but I'm just thinking it would be something that would tie the community to our kids when they're still in high school.
So maybe we almost have like an alumni email list to the parents.
or like on our Facebook page, we could have like a Google link being like, do you know of any accomplishments that the school board should highlight?
Like I went to one of the Concord High plays and I think there were 6 kids from Deerfield in play.
Mhm.
That was really cool. That would have been nice if somebody had done something right about those kids in the play.
Totally.
Or an orchestra
Or
or
like,
whatever.
You know, so,
They won the state championships or
right,
whatever.
like a senior volleyball player is going to state or
Yeah,
something.
they're in a club and
It's-
they raised all this money and went somewhere. I don't know.
I think we did get that type of information. We have those student reps coming and I know we've talked about that at another
Right.
meeting. Like that might be your best bet because they know each other.
Yeah.
And when the student reps from Concord came here and presented, they would say like, oh, so-and-so was in exactly what you just said. So-and-so was in the play and they know that they're their peers from
that kind
Deerfield.
of sailed away during COVID.
It did,
So-
but yeah, so that's sort of like what C is.
I was
So
gonna
create
say,
more opportunities to
yeah.
hear from students. So
Yeah.
like, do we want to reinvigorate that?
That was interesting, and it was the same report that I think was being given at
To
the
the
Concord
school,
board. So they were using the same report, we were getting the same information, but it was coming from
Deerfield students.
our kids,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's combining a little bit of B and C.
Yeah.
Maybe we have like a meeting set aside twice a year or whatever, that we invite some of the high school kids in from the different locations to give a little bit of an update, speech of what's going on with our kids there.
I think one of the best meetings we had, and I don't know if you were on the board,
I wasn't, I was there.
you were there, was when we had 10, maybe
A dozen.
a
So,
dozen
yeah.
of the former students from DCS there, and we were talking about Concord and their high school experience and everything else. That was a great conclusion to that feedback loop, right? We were getting it straight from, at one point, we told the administrators from Concord, all right, we're done talking to you, we want to talk to the kids, because that's who we really wanted to hear from that day. And it was great just to hear their input and feedback. And, you know, it was really cool. They were the kids that you remember walking through, you all, I'm sure, one time. It'd be cool to get something like that, even if you did that, you know, once a year.
I was gonna say, I think it would be too burdensome to ask them to come too often, but
If you have kids in 3 schools, you could stagger.
that's true.
Just
Yeah.
do one for each.
Yeah. So maybe we combine B and C. And then
put like, you know, 3.
If you're just starting
I
to
was
work
gonna
with
say.
Steve about that, you put
Yeah.
that as a measurable goal
Yeah.
that the board will.
I also think we
Post.
could use it for like, if there are big announcements or presentations or whatever, we can send that out to the
And I
town.
And you can put the bridge on the town website too, and then people could, if they don't have kids here, they could subscribe to it and get the bridge.
Okay, yeah, we can put a note out saying, you wanna subscribe to the bridge, do it here, or like, if you can't find our YouTube videos, here is the link.
Yeah.
Cause we get that question a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. 2, I know it's a little painful to talk about because we haven't even figured out the first part of it. But I do think after we figure out a short-term plan, we're gonna need to figure out a longer-term plan very quickly. So that's sort of just that. I don't know if there's much else to add.
No.
I mean, and that's something we'll certainly try our best to do in a year, but we'll, have to see.
We have to see. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's not gonna be on this March's warrant.
Right, but we know it's gonna be like 3 years, so we're gonna have to do something.
I would say next year.
Definitely.
And the
Quickly.
goal is to create a timeline and an action plan.
Right.
That you can do in a year.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and then 4, do we still wanna include, do we want to? Is that a goal?
I think the only thing I'm a little hesitant, and Mrs. Withy can help me on this, is that you have a brand new food service director and she's trying to figure out and negotiate how to run the DCS kitchen and how to order and what to order, and I don't know if that would.
Yeah, and she's local resident, so I'm sure she would eventually love to be able to do that.
I just don't know that her first year.
Yeah.
So maybe we can,
Can we just start with even just research?
Or, yeah, cause you just say explore.
Right.
I mean, you could do, right? I mean, if that's the board exploring, not putting it on. the
Right, not putting
cafeteria.
it on the cafeteria.
That's
but just
true.
looking at,
We're
looking
If it's
at
a board,
the
yeah, you're right, it's a board
Grants
goal.
are there, what does
Yeah.
this look like in other schools, just kind of
yeah,
getting some
doing
general
research.
information on it.
Is there anyone who, I mean, I feel like we
I know,
might
it's
want
my
to,
It's my goal.
we may wanna form a little committee.
I nominate Danielle.
Me too.
Danielle, I've always.
We don't have to figure it out
And
today,
Ellen. I nominated Ellen.
but I just like, I
We
agree.
could have a school vegetable garden.
Oh,
What a weird
no one
idea.
ever thought of that.
And we could put it in the curriculum, in third grade curriculum, because they love
Listen, we can fill up an acre, that backfield behind the playground.
We can't boss everyone
Can't we
over.
build a
We're
greenhouse?
not
We
bossing.
would love, we would need a lot to know or turn Stage Road into a
Have a
farm.
classroom there, so, okay, anyway, shoot me
Okay, so any other
That
comments? So
wasn't
I'm
us
gonna,
that did that.
I know.
I'm going
Reminding
to.
You're gonna add the Nelms, think about that as far
Yeah.
as the updates, and then what about the other one,
Which other one?
the last one? The justice,
Um.
equity and justice.
So I've been thinking about this one a lot, and I think it is already in our guiding principles, like the school's principles in policy 80. So I'm not exactly sure,
What exactly we can do.
right, or like how we can support that effort aside from making it a known,
That we respect it.
a known initiative for the school.
Right.
So I don't know.
There's not really you can.
Right,
Right.
like there's nothing that I can.
I mean, if it's already in a policy.
It is, and it's in
That's
the
all
guide,
that we
like
can
the,
do, right.
it's in policy 80, so like the school's, I don't
They
know,
only-
philosophy or something.
Right, I
The
mean,
other thing,
we could have the administration update us on how are things going, that, I would say that's something we do, what do you say?
well, I was gonna say, and then supporting it with funding for workshops.
Oh, that's true.
That's a good
But
idea.
that's, I mean, policy and budget are what you're,
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to sort of put it in with,
I mean, I do think it's incredibly important.
I agree. I don't know how much as a board we can have it as our goal when it's already in a policy.
It's a pretty hot topic right now too, and now the state now has 4 DEIJ coordinators in
Yeah.
the state, so there's a lot of breakouts and committee work now, sort of raising awareness about what are action steps that you can do to
So maybe
inclusion and equity in your schools. I think so. I think that we're gonna be talking about it more.
Yeah, I mean, so I think maybe
How about if we, something about we keep abreast of what's going on in the state in this area?
Oh, that's a good idea.
That could be a goal that we could do.
Yep.
And then based on that, we can make decisions if we want to do something.
Yeah, and I put a study that was just released, I think, fairly recently about DEIJ initiatives in the drive, just for people's perusing, if you're interested.
Read most of it. I think I'll wait for the end.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was about hiring staff.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that we will be able to do yet.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's a good sign that there are 4 in the state, because
Yes.
now that means they're boots on the ground in the schools and they're gonna start doing things and then other people are gonna pull from that,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
is gonna be great. Concord just hired one, so
Oh, good.
I
Yeah.
will keep in touch with Kathleen, she's in Lakes Region Superintendent's group and happy to share anything that we discussed too.
I thought you did a really nice job on this though.
Oh, thank you.
That's great, thanks.
So I'm gonna make these changes. I think it would be premature to vote on them without like an actual document, so we can vote on it during the business session.
And you
next
want
week.
Nate's input too.
Yeah, of course.
And I think just like maybe tease announcing those like actual bullets. and things.
Yes,
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
which we talked about, so.
For sure. Cool. Okay, informational items. The municipal budget committee, sorry, Zach, I'm taking over your piece of this. So at exec board last week, Patty gave us a calendar, which made me start thinking about budgeting, and just sort of wanted to give an overview about the budget process. And sort of a timeline for that, because I joined the board like halfway through the budget season last year, and it was very confusing. So, I have drafted an email to the chair of the NBC, because he wanted more collaboration between the school board and the NBC. And so I was gonna specifically lay out, like, these are the 4 meetings that the school board is planning to discuss the budget. If the NBC members would like to come, please come. We will let you ask questions at those meetings after our discussion. And you know, these are the 4 that we will be talking about. And I've given so October 18th is gonna be Principal Withy's presentation of her items. November 1st, we can expect to get our draft of the budget, so the full budget, so we start discussing. And then November 15th and December 6th, we discuss and revise, and we go line by line through the entire budget, talking about, you know, how much we have historically spent, what we were budgeted last year, et cetera. You will get all this information about the budget that you didn't ever know you needed. As just a basic informational piece, I will request that everyone spend a good amount of time looking at the budget before the meeting, just to be prepared. And then there are several MBC meetings where they're specifically talking about the school, so I was gonna lay out those meetings that we anticipate having people there to answer questions about the school stuff.
So, Matt,
Yes.
so a couple of things that we run into on the NBC every year is the NBC wants to get the school's budget obviously as early as possible. The school wants to finish their budget so that we're done with it when we give it to the NBC. We run into a little bit of a timing hiccup. We meet on Wednesdays, the NBC meets on Tuesdays. So although we may both have a meeting scheduled the same week, you know, sometimes the NBC meets on Tuesday and the budget's not done yet, but we wrap it up on, you know, the following day. But their next meeting's not scheduled out for another week. So you know, every single year since I've been on the NBC, we've been pretty good about saying, okay, as soon as the budget's done, we're gonna give it to you, we're gonna get it in the binders, we're gonna get all the information, all the backup information, we're gonna let you know when it's done. We'll notify the chair, and, you know, anybody that wants to get their binder, so by the school, they can. The NBC this year seems like they are taking a more, they want to be a little bit more in control of the dating of when we complete the budget, and turn it over to them. So the NBC has to have a discussion about that. Because again, we need to wrap up our stuff on the budget in its entirety, and there's late numbers that come in that we typically don't get until the end of November.
Like special ed projections.
Special ed projections, retirement figures from the
Insurance
state,
rates.
insurance. And so those are the three things that hold us up from really wrapping up the budget. They stay as gray areas, they stay as estimates. You know, every single year, Amber says, well, we've talked to them, and it may, on the insurance side, it could be a 4% increase. So she'll plug in a worst case, and then we usually get the finalized numbers. But, you know, for the last 7-8 years, the objective has been, when the school board is done with the budget, once we've given it to the NBC, we don't go back and try to revisit it. The town takes a slightly different approach, and they'll move their budget and then request tweaks through the MDC process because of just the way that they flow through it. It kind of processes a little bit differently.
They have a lot of departments.
Yeah, I mean, it's a smaller number. There's a lot of departments. The NBC typically spends more time talking to the fire chief, the police chief, the highway, and so on and so forth. And so historically, it's been probably 3 or 4 meetings on the town side and 2 to 3 meetings on the school side.
Yeah, and so I looked at,
I
the
was actually
NBC
trying to
has,
pull their calendar.
yeah, I
but
pulled
can't
their
get to it.
calendar and it really isn't that different from our timeline. So I have laid out their meetings that they have calendared to talk about the school budget. And when I realistically think that the budget will be done and ready for them for their meeting. So I'm happy to give you a draft of this if you want to review it.
It's the Tuesday, Wednesday thing that typically gets us in trouble.
Yeah, so I think we'll finish our budget by December 6th. And then their school meeting is December 12th.
And you said there are 2, what's the other one?
They have December 12th, December 19th, and January 2nd.
And they had requested it on the 5th
Yes.
initially. I think they asked for it, but you're not gonna be
Yeah,
finished
Right,
with it.
that's the Tuesday, Wednesday,
Correct.
and then we always run into it.
Correct. And then even if they wanted to have their meeting on the 9th, I know they usually cancel the Saturday meetings, but it's still, if you made a bunch of changes on the 6th, it would only give us 2 days to,
Wrap it up.
yeah, because there's a lot of documents in the budget binder that every time you change the budget, it changes a bunch of other documents.
And that's part of,
And then the deliberative sessions are in February.
So I've sort of outlined that in my email, which is like, there's a short window between our December 6th school board meeting and the scheduled December 9th Saturday MVC meeting. So it's most realistic to assume that the budget binders will be available on the 12th for your meeting,
and
before your meeting.
we haven't had the Saturday meeting on the NBC. It historically has been 2 scheduled, one
Yes,
for the town, one for the school. It's probably been 5-6 years. since
they
we've
have
had
scheduled 2 for the school.
Right.
But I sort of assume they will not go forward.
that.
I would
Hopefully,
say if this Saturday, January 6th goes forward, can commit to go as the chair, but I don't think we bring staff in on a Saturday.
no, and I think part of what we've done in the past, and I think I haven't had a chance to review this in its entirety, but typically Amber's schedules are probably getting weeded out right now.
Yes.
For her availability, but I think we need to let the NBC know, these are the meetings that Amber and Patty will be at to answer your questions. And the
Do
reason
you want
why,
me to add that to these 3?
the reason why I say
got them
that is we've had meetings where, we've had Amber there, and Amber goes through a bad month of schedule between.
Well, this is the SAU calendar that
Right.
we gave out.
Right.
So Amber's family doesn't see her for 8 weeks. But we really want to make sure the NBC understands, these are the meetings the business administrator can be at, because she has other meetings to be at on all the other days.
Yeah.
And so that they know that in advance so that they can be prepared. Part of that is getting the binders in advance before she meets. So if we give the budgets to the NBC for that meeting on the 12th, what days did you have Amber available?
The 12th and the 19th.
The 12th and 19th. So ideally, the NBC members would get, the binders, say the Friday of that week, have all weekend to review, even though all the budget information is online as well.
Yeah.
So they're ready to ask questions on the 12th.
Okay,
And the
so
19th.
I will,
If we can get them ready.
If we can.
That's what we don't want to promise.
Right, but
But as soon as they're
that's for the
ready,
9th.
Right.
we get them out.
And that's not to say we can give them the budget in advance. and
Oh,
so
yeah.
The binders
We
will
post
be
it
with all the
always.
backup
Yeah.
information, all that stuff. I know historically the pickup rate on early grabbing the binders hasn't been
No,
phenomenal.
they don't really come and get them.
No.
So we'll have Amber and Patty at the 12th and the 19th
Not Patty, at Pembroke School Board,
on which,
the 19th. So I'll be with Amber, Patty on the 12th, and this is with the.
Everybody, we get everybody.
And then the 19th, you'll have DCS and Amber.
I'll also go to all.
Yes.
What's
And then
yours
the
next
other one,
year?
January 2nd. I think Amber can go January 2nd as of right now. I can't be there that day. Usually by the time
Right.
we've been there 2 or 3 times, they
I'm not
don't need
gonna-
us
I'm
anymore
not really
because.
gonna offer Amber probably, if she's not planning to already go.
Okay.
I'll offer myself, if they really desperately need Amber, we can talk about it.
Okay. Usually by the time you get down there, they're just determining whether they're gonna recommend cuts and that kind of thing.
So I think,
And
I will indicate who is
we
can be
may
there.
want Lisa this year. Just
Oh.
on-
That's a good point. Just copy me on that,
Yes.
and then I can work with our admin team to make sure we have coverage from school too.
Okay. So yes, so I want to send this out tomorrow. The NBC's meeting on the 3rd. So I want them to have sort of our schedule so that they can share amongst the group.
We will hopefully talk about it with the chair and the rest of the NBC and go from there.
Cool. Okay. I think that is it for our public session. So I will make a motion to go into non-public session.
Before you make a motion, just a real quick question. Next meeting, we're gonna be talking about the resolutions, right?
Yes, voting on them, yes. I have it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you gotta make your motion to what?
Make a motion to go into non-public pursuant to NHRSA 91A:3, number 2, small letter K.
So moved.
Kenra and Zach. Roll call.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Are you doing public comments afterwards?
Oh,
We don't have them on,
No, you don't.
but we could, do you have a comment you'd like to make afterward?
I got a lot of comments, I mean, based on what I heard you all discussing. So I don't know if you want those or if you'd rather not have them.
Would you rather do, are we gonna be in non-public for a while?
I imagine so.
So if,
Okay, we'll make a motion to come out of non-public.
Sorry to, well, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear your comments.
You could just withdraw your
We'll
motion.
withdraw the motion.
Withdraw the motion. And then make them, and then you wanna get permission from the board to change the agenda. Like, just-
Okay.
Just the
that
board
is a
all agree.
tyrant, we're gonna go.
I am a tyrant. I am changing the agenda.
Yes.
Just kidding. We're gonna add another public comment before non-public.
If it's only Errol, it should be Errol's comments.
Errol's,
Errol's
adding Errol's comments.
No, just a member of the public.
Does the board have any objection to that? No. Okay.
Thank
The
you
floor
very
is
much.
yours.
Sometimes tyranny is good.
Works out for specific individuals.
Yeah. Ask Mr. Erdogan. As the publisher of a publication that has actually highlighted, I think in fall of 2022, the achievements of Megan Gamache, I would remind you that there is a forum in which you can highlight things like that. And in fact, I was thinking about it, be happy to have a school section to highlight those things. I was thinking about that because you were talking about Facebook, and have you figured out what your reach is with Facebook in town? I mean,
Not.
and not to highlight that so much, but to sort of figure out what the size of your blind spot is. Because that there, I think it's a substantial, I'm guessing, I don't have any evidence, but you can reach people that way, and they love to hear about achievements, and I think that's, all of that is very good. And I agree that they want to hear about Deerfield people. I'm not sure they want to hear about somebody at Concord who is from, the south side of Concord. But people love to hear about Deerfield, so I'd agree with that. I was really sorry that you weren't able to come to the Energy Committee meeting. I'm glad that you mentioned you met with one member of the Energy Committee, but there were a number of things when you were talking about that came to my mind. Energy Committee actually did have a couple of representatives look at the Stage Road site, and they actually concluded that it wasn't such a great site for solar. And if you'd have come to that, if you'd come to the whole committee, I think that might have come out. I mean, there are other concerns around solar that the committee has that maybe just one member of the committee might not have. So it would have been helpful, since we sponsored the warrant articles Mr. Langlois made reference to. So that would have been a way to work with the town, seems to me. IRA 22, you were talking about not being able to take advantage of the investment tax credits. I'm thinking IRA 22 actually creates grants for public entities that can't take advantage of tax breaks. And so I would think about owning maybe what the options are before deciding you don't have that option, because I think there may be grants out there replacing credits or whatever benefits. But I agree the timeline is tight. You got a year to put something on to get it certified, I guess. But that's the kind of thing that we can help with if you want, but you can do it on your own. It's not a big deal, but it's important to know about that stuff because it might change how it all works out.
But I just want, I don't know, I'm not supposed to say anything, but when are your energy committee meetings? They're always on Wednesday? Are they once a month?
No, they're actually often on Tuesdays.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
All right, it's posted, right?
If we can remember, yes. But, Mrs. Matthews is very good at doing that. So it's just usually a week or so in advance.
I can start.
But the other thing about the Stage Road property is that not only was it not particularly seen to be not particularly good for solar, but it's also pretty much ledge, all of it. The road is not, so even a housing development, anything like that, I think would, run into difficulties. I think there's a reason, who was the fellow who used to own it?
That was one of the reasons.
Yeah, one of the reads. Yeah, I think that there may have been a reason he gave it to the town or the school, whichever went first. So, it's problematic, I think, just as a general matter. Let's see.
While you're thinking, I didn't start a timer, but I imagine we might go over 3 minutes.
I'm
So
going to beg your indulgence.
I was going to say, if anyone would like to make a motion to extend the time, we can certainly entertain that.
You need a motion for it? I make a motion to allow the chair to indulge Mr. Rhodes to her heart's content.
Hold on, this is Errol's comments, right? Not
Yes.
public comments.
I will second the motion.
You were talking.
And does anyone?
Aye.
Okay.
You were
All
also-
in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
You were talking about SharePoint. And that is a big problem. You can't QR code to it. That's why the Gazette published all those QR codes, because we have all that stuff on our site. And we've actually migrated a lot of the SharePoint stuff onto the Gazette site so that people can get to it without difficulty. And so I'm glad to hear that. I think Google, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to sign in.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
just go.
So that's a great thing, but we've got all that stuff on our site as well.
Yeah.
That makes it a little more accessible. But this, back to the point about public access, I mean, that's, if you're doing that, I think you're making a good step towards. I'm delighted to hear that you, good luck, Mr. Janelli. Just to end it on a snarky note, how are,
Wait, I take back.
Oh,
Time's up.
how are we on audits? Are we, I
So
mean,
we are sharing, we have that on our business agenda for next week.
Yeah, there's an update on all the districts and all the timelines will be on the next agenda.
well, because it's still 2017 on your website, you know that.
Nope, I didn't know that.
I looked at it this morning,
Okay,
2017, which is 6
point
years.
taken, and I will relay that information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Just FYI, Co-Brown Post, their honor roll in the Concord Monitor. And there are currently at least 5 girls on Concord varsity soccer, about 4 on JV, some of freshmen up on JV. I know for boys too, there's lots of Deerfield boys playing. I know some are playing volleyball. So there's a lot of our kids involved in the sports program.
We could print pictures of that stuff. I mean, it's quarterly, it's sort of seasonal with the sports and stuff like that. Be happy to do it.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Let me make my motion
I-
to non-public.
I'll redo my motion for non-public. Pursuant to all the same letters and numbers I said last time.
Henry, a second.
I will make the motion.
I'll second.
Danielle will second.
Oh, you took my second.
I took it.
She did.
Yeah.
You stole my,
Speak up when you want.
Okay.
going home. I like. it.
Aye. All right, back in it.
We're in conclave.
And are shutting down.